How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So today we're talking about three potential rookies next year that could earn starting jobs. Now, obviously, spring training will give us a lot of more information in the next 2 weeks, a little bit more of a sample size. Oswald Peraza, guys, wow, 7-game hitting streak. 3 of those games have 2 or more hits. He had a homer over the Green Monster yesterday. I mean, this is a player that's red hot, and he's showcasing his offensive identity. We know he can be a Gold Glove level defender. Pair that with the offense he's showing right now, there might be something there. There might be a starting player in there somewhere. And I feel like the Yankees are seeing the best of Peraza right now, seeing why he deserves to be at the MLB level and what he can contribute to this team in the future. So, we're going to discuss a couple of these guys, what their roles may end up being. If they're starters, maybe they're in utility roles, maybe they're, first option reserves or supplementary pieces. But Ryan, before we dive into the good stuff, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing good. Look, the Yankees, I know that, we're not going to sit here and start throwing pom-poms about beating the Red Sox in a series where you're not making the playoffs, they're not making the playoffs. Nobody's sitting here happy with either franchise right now, but hey, they won games, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and be in a bad mood about it. We got to see some exciting plays. Oswald Peraza obviously kind of capped off the week with that home run over left field, and I was really excited by that. Like, he showed some emotion. The team, I feel like, fails to show emotion at times, and personally, I think that's something that they need to incorporate going forward. Alex, this is a boring team, right? Like, this team is boring. They're stale. They're emotionless. They look kind of like, they look dead on the field sometimes. And obviously you're going to look lifeless when you don't play well. Like, we're going to sit here and say, like, the 2022 team, when they were playing well, they were so much fun. They were so energetic. Yeah, they were winning. Like, I get that. But even when they do win, right, you rarely see that emotion that you saw yesterday from Peraza. I think that's the most excited I've seen a player following, a good thing happening for the Yankees in a very long time. But these rookies kind of resemble some new hope, right? There is potential here. There are a couple guys that aren't going to hit. There are a couple guys that are going to hit. You just hope you get enough of them at key positions that you can kind of work around it and then use your financial weapons to go out and get the pieces you need, or trade some of the players that are surplus and get other players you need, like an outfielder maybe, or some starting pitching help, whatever it may be. When you're looking at this farm system, I think there's a lot to like, especially on the pitching side of the ball. Like, there's a lot the Yankees do really well in terms of drafting college pitchers, turning them into really good prospects. On the position player side of the ball, we're seeing kind of the improvements across the board as a farm system. Their Double-A team is a wagon. Their FCL team was a wagon. Like, there were reports that might have been one of the most talented Florida Complex League teams people have ever seen, right? Like, that team is loaded with talent up and down. We've seen their first-round pick, George Lombard Jr., who turned 18 in June. Like, he is, I know that I kind of make people feel old on this podcast, but he is a couple of months older than me at best, right? I think he was a June guy. I'm born in October. Like, we're talking a dude my age, right? Makes me kind of think, what did I do wrong in my life? But, overall, like, you have some exciting guys. And then when you're evaluating more at the major league level, obviously Peraza hit that home run yesterday. He's having a good month in September. Volpe, for the most part, has had an up and down year, but you're encouraged for next year. Austin Wells has handled the pitching staff really, really well. Like, the pitching staff has responded excellently to Austin Wells. Looking at, Everson Pereira struggled at the major league level at the plate, but defensively and base running wise, you like what you see. He has good power. You hope that translates. We've seen guys, come up and struggle before, so you're not too concerned there. On the pitching side of the ball, we haven't got to see a lot of rookies, right? Like, Drew Thorpe is still his ways away. He's still in Double-A. Will Warren is still in Triple-A. Clayton Beeter is still in Triple-A, though he struck out 13 guys yesterday. Overall, I mean, the big thing for me is the Yankees needs to give them opportunities. And I think the big guy that we're going to see in 2024 play a big role in this team is Austin Wells. Like, he's the catcher. He's the guy who's going to be handling the pitching staff. You're going to see a change at that position. If he plays full time, the Yankees are going to be kind of shifting into more of a risk defensively behind the plate. How will the pitching staff respond? So far, so good, but, next year's pitching staff might look a little bit differently. It's also going to be throughout the course of a full season. How is he going to hit? He hasn't necessarily hit at the major league level. If he's a quality major league hitter, that changes a lot for you. And catching is not a position where you can find guys. Like, I know that Pereira, the book is not even close to close. It's barely even open on Everson Pereira. But if he doesn't work out, like, you can just find a left fielder. Like, it's not saying the Yankees have had success with that lately, but there's always left-handed, corner outfielders or even right-handed corner outfielders that are available on the market. If Oswald Peraza doesn't pan out, you can just sign a third baseman, right? Gleyber Torres is kind of giving you that, like, nice cushion that you now no longer need to force Peraza to play second base. If, one of your pitching prospects don't work out, you have a pretty good rotation and you have a pretty good bullpen. So you can either A, take a starter who failed and move them to the bullpen and then sign another starter, or B, you just don't have to worry about that pitcher at all and just kind of cast them off. So I don't know how you feel about this, Alex, but I think Austin Wells might be the most important prospect in this next crop of prospects. And I'm kind of ignoring Jason Dominguez here, but he's still sidelined. So entering opening day, I think he's the most important guy right now.
I mean, look, Austin Wells has the potential to be one of the better offensive catchers in the game because a lot of teams are going that defensive route, including the Yankees. I think Jose Trevino still maintains his starting job simply because Garrett Cole loves him. All the pitchers love pitching to Jose Trevino. Now, I don't know exactly, the sample size is small when it comes to Austin Wells, but we know he's got a bat. We know he's been about like a little bit slightly above average in AA and AAA. So, giving him more opportunity is good. I think he's, obviously been having his fair share of struggles. Just that adaptation period. Same with Everson Pereira. He's been struggling at times to kind of grasp the major league level. Peraza's seen it before. Like he's picking it up again. Jason Dominguez is a freak of nature. He just was electric right off the bat because that's just his nature. He's a competitor in ways we haven't seen with some of these other prospects. But if Austin Wells becomes a good offensive catcher for the Yankees, that's a real asset. If he can be a league average defensive catcher, which I think is possible, like Severino liked him, he caught some of those guys and they liked what he had to offer behind the dish. He threw out his first guy trying to steal a bag. There's value there. You know what I mean? Having an offensive piece, if he could, bottom half of the order, a lefty, Yankee Stadium definitely profiles well for him. Now, what do you need to see from Wells, though, over the next 2 weeks and during spring training to actually situate himself in a job? Do you think he can start next year? I personally think Trevino's probably the maintained starter. But if you're looking at Austin Wells, do you think he takes over for Higashioka, for Ben Wartfett? How do you actually think he plays into this equation, or do you think that he really steals that job right from Trevino?
I think that Austin Wells getting the reps against right-handed pitching is the right call. Jose Trevino is unplayable against righties. He's a really good defender, but he is unplayable against right-handed pitching. And also, you know that this year's been a bad year for Austin Wells in terms of like offensively at the plate. Like the things he usually does are not happening for him. He's not hitting as many home runs. He's not getting on base as much. Like even at the minor league level, that was the case. It hasn't been the year that Austin Wells has wanted, and that's fine, right? Like that happens. Just like you can struggle at the major league level, that can also happen at the minor league level. But, if he goes into 2024, has a good offseason, a healthy spring training, I think is a big thing for him. He didn't have spring training last year. He was just kind of like, all right, you got to go, like you go through rehab and then you go play. And consistently having to rehab and work your way back onto the field, it's taxing, right? Like players will tell you that all the time. It is a lonely, drawn out, depressing time when you have to rehab, when you have to get your body back and acclimated to playing, the sport you love. It's not fun. So having a healthy offseason, going through the motions, getting to spring training healthy, working with the pitching staff in spring training, getting those at bats, I think is going to help him mightily. This is a guy who I think like he had major league like tools offensively in 2022. He could have come up in 2023 if he was healthy in spring training a lot earlier. If he gives you a 100 to 105 WRC plus, I know that's not exciting, but that immediately becomes the best offensive catcher you've had since 2019 Gary Sanchez. And if the defense is what it's been so far, which is solid, like he's done a good job with the running game, he's done a good job with the pitching staff, he's going to be a plus player. Like he's going to be an above average major league catcher. He's going to really help this team a lot. And this team's going to win a lot of games because of having a guy like Austin Wells. But the question is the questions that you have for him are, number one, is he going to be able to make that leap offensively? And number two, is he going to be able to continue to progress defensively? The arm strength is better. The pops time is better than years past. The framing is better than years past. Now it's about kind of putting it all together. He's going to be 25 years old next year. So he's a little bit older than the other guys we're talking about. And you kind of expect him to come out and kind of comes out guns a-blazing in 2024. He kind of has to, because then he's going to be a 25-year-old prospect with no major league success. But hey, we'll have to wait and see. It could be a lot better than 100 WRC plus too. Like he could totally go out and put up a 115 WRC plus, especially with that short porch in right field. And for a left-handed hitter, that is huge for the Yankees. If the Yankees get a hitter like that out of Austin Wells, man, that is like franchise-changing stuff. You suddenly have your catcher for the future and a left-handed hitter. It knocks out two birds with one stone. The other guy that needs to kind of take a big leap in 2024 is Everson Pereira, right? Like Jason Dominguez is naturally going to create an outfield problem for Everson Pereira, because the Yankees are probably going to get an outfielder this offseason, regardless of whether that's a guy who's here, through next year or here, for multiple years beyond next year or not. That remains to be seen. We don't know yet. But Everson Pereira's playing time is going to be challenged by Jason Dominguez. It's going to be challenged by, obviously, Aaron Judge is not going to have his playing time cut into. If Giancarlo Stanton rebounds, that'll, make some noise in terms of their ability to play Pereira. And if they acquire an outfielder and that guy performs well as well, you're trying to win the World Series, right? Like you're not going to play a prospect over a better player in a World Series window. You might do that when you're rebuilding. You might just trade that better player. But if you're seriously competing for the AL East and you're seriously competing for a playoff spot, come the deadline, that guy's going to keep playing, right? So Everson Pereira, not that his career ends next year if he doesn't play well, but his playing time with the Yankees is definitely going to be in question if he doesn't play well next year. And that's mainly because they're going to just have guys they can trade for, or guys that they have in the organization, or guys that come off the IL, or guys that are currently already in the team, already in the franchise, that are going to come in and take those playing reps, that time in the outfield, that time at the plate. And he has the potential. Like, he has great bat speed. He's a pretty good defender out there. And that's kind of the big thing here. Alex, left field defense has been so bad for the Yankees. Everybody we throw out there sucks. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa can play center field, but can't play left for some reason. I don't even want to think about Jake Bauers in left fields. I don't even want to think about it. No disrespect to Jake Bauers. He's just not a left fielder. Everson Pereira gives the Yankees like a stable option left field defensively. The question is, can he hit? Because we know the bat's electric. And we've seen, 2016, tell me if you've heard this story before. Outfielder comes up, has strikeout issues, hits the ball hard, plays good defense, has good wheels, shows off really good power, but doesn't have the results in his first year up. And then in the year following that, he pops off. We've heard that story before because that's Aaron Judge's story. I'm not saying Everson Pereira is Aaron Judge, but there is that blueprint, right? There is that timeline of a guy coming up, struggling as an outfielder with contact, and then fixing those things in the offseason. And that's why I was a proponent of Everson Pereira coming up. Not because I thought he was going to come up and change the Yankees lineup, but because now we get to get him exposed to major league pitching. Now he has to make adjustments in the offseason. Now he has data to look at and say, all right, I have to improve X, Y, and Z. That applies to Austin Wells as well. But overall, Alex, like going into 2024, both of these guys are going to have to improve, and you have the major league experience now for them to work off of. And I think that's a big thing for us and for the fan base.
Absolutely. Having that experience can sometimes compound, and you obviously want to get them a little bit of taste of the MLB, what it looks like, what the feeling is like, getting the jitters out. And at the end of the day, I don't expect all these guys to pan out. In fact, 90% of them probably won't become starters in the MLB. But, you don't have nothing to lose right now in terms of giving them an opportunity to showcase their worth. I think Peraza, he's got a real shot at winning that third base job. Unless they go out and get a guy like Jeimer Candelario, unless they go out and get someone that's a proven starter with, experience, I think that he holds a lot of juice right now, holds a lot of the marbles to actually go in there and win that job outright. And then it would be really cool to see an infield of Volpe, Glaber, and Oswald Peraza, because those are your guys. Volpe's homegrown, Peraza's homegrown. As far as I'm concerned, Glaber's been relatively homegrown here, aside from, the prior years with the Chicago Cubs when he was moved. We've gotten a lot of value out of them. Volpe, I think, is going to be a very solid player. Gleyber Torres is having one of his best seasons right now, and I think he's a really, he's a candidate to bounce back defensively and maintain some of these offensive metrics. His strikeout rate has dipped like 8%. That's really freaking good, guys. Gleyber Torres is an asset to this team. If he can eliminate some of those little mishaps on the bases and, improve his defense once again, which we know he can do. He had 9 defensive runs saved last year. He's going to be a good player for us for a very long time, and he's only 26 years old. Let's not get any older, my friends. Let's get younger. Let's keep our key players around. And I think that that's an essential kind of variable here. But, with that being said, if Peraza could lock down the hot corner, you have Jason Dominguez, who's going to be starting in center field once he comes back. They're probably going to find some supplementary piece, or maybe a piece that can shift over to left field, or Jason shifts over to left field at some point. I think you're in good shape there. I don't think Austin Wells is going to be labeled a starter, but I think he'll be, that secondary piece behind Jose Trevino. I think that he'll work on his defense a lot. He'll get used to the offensive side when it comes to hitting for the Yankees in the MLB, but it's going to take time. I think, Higashioka has served us well, but I think it's time to pass the torch. Anybody else that kind of stands out right now? Looking at some pitchers, Will Warren, you referenced him before we started recording. Drew Thorpe, he's getting really close. Clayton Beater, he should be called up soon. I think that he should get a start in the MLB, or at least some bullpen action, just to test it out, see if he can handle the jitters, handle the next level. What are your thoughts on some of these pitchers that can make an impact in 2024? And also, not rookies, but Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito, how do you think they play a part into this system moving forward? I think maybe, you're looking at long inning relief guys, spot starters. You can utilize those guys in the future.
Yeah, so number one, the guy I want to talk about in terms of 2024 specifically, not their best pitching prospect, but a guy who kind of has been just tossed under the radar. Will Ward is really good, right? Like, I know that Chase Hampton and Drew Thorpe are better pitching prospects than Will Warren. I understand this, right? Like, I know why the hype isn't there. But this guy is really good, Alex. Among pitchers with 1,000 or more innings pitched, he has the best stuff plus in AAA at a 122.4. Now, okay, being the best in terms of stuff plus amongst AAA pitchers, that's an accomplishment, but it's AAA, right? Like the competition isn't great. The pitching depth isn't as good as it has been in years past. But the gap between him and second place is bigger than the gap between second place and 18th, Alex. This dude's stuff is freaking ridiculous. He's got a ridiculous slider. We're talking plus pitch. We're talking a 70 grade pitch here. His sinker is also a plus pitch. He's got a solid changeup. Four-seam fastball is pretty solid. He's got like a slider he throws that's like, it's not a sweeper. It's more of like a cutter type of thing. I'm not sure if I buy it too much. I think he should just throw a cutter, but we'll see. Like the Yankees are going to have a chance to work with him in spring training and see kind of how that goes. But he is so good. He has had such a good year. A 3.91 ERA in AAA doesn't sound super impressive, but the league average ERA there is 5.25, man. Like I'm impressed by a 3.91 ERA from a starting pitcher in a league where the average ERA is north of 5.2. Clayton Beeter, you mentioned, he's struggled more in AAA. He has not had the success Will Warren has had, but here's what I'll say. His two pitches, and this is why he's really not a starter, the way that you'd view Will Warren as a starter is because he has two pitches and everything else is kind of meh, but his two pitches are very good. His four-seam fastball, when he's sitting 94, 95, which we saw yesterday, is devastating. He struck out 13 batters in 5 innings, and there's a reason for that. It's because his fastball was up a tick. It was up to 94, 95, more of 17 inches of induced vertical break instead of 16. That extra inch of carry, that extra mile per hour on the fastball, it helps that slider play off. And Alex, that slider is really good. It is a banger slider. Falls off the table, comes out of its over the top slot as well. So when that thing drops, the vertical, like you look at induced vertical break, which removes the effect of gravity. When you add upon the effect of gravity when you're throwing it over the top, dude, that thing is nasty and it'll play to lefties and righties. Clean Beater next year is the type of guy I look at and say, I see so much Chad Green in his profile. I see so much. Like the dude comes out, gives you 2 innings, 95, 96 even on a good day, gives you a good slider as well. 2-pitch mix, has good command of those 2 pitches. That's a guy who could impact you next year. He's Rule 5 eligible, so you have to put him on the 40-man this winter because the team will pick him up for free. Will Warren, you don't have to do that with, so you don't have to necessarily put Will Warren on the 2024 roster, but you do for Clayton Beeter. Then for Drew Thorpe, right? Like that's the exciting guy. Like Drew Thorpe lit up Double-A. He's been unbelievable. We talk about him all the time. I got an opportunity to, and this has not come out yet, so like I know that it's not going to be public yet, but I was able to interview Jared Seidler of Baseball Prospectus. He's a prospect writer, and he was telling us that if we saw the pitch shapes, if we had public information on that regarding Drew Thorpe's changeup, that we would view him as one of the elite of the elite pitching prospects in today's game. His changeup is that good. Like it's an unbelievable pitch. It gets ridiculous whiff rates. We're looking at a guy who might be a future ace. And then Chase Hampton, he has better stuff than Drew Thorpe, but not the command or the results that Drew Thorpe has had. Those are 4 guys right there that are so exciting for the future. These are guys that can impact the team in 2024 or 2025. And both of these guys, all 4 of those guys are guys that have like that upper echelon ceiling. Beeter may not be a starter, but he could be a high leverage reliever. Will Warren, even if he isn't a starter, dude, I'm telling you, if he's not a starter, he's going to be one of the best relievers in baseball. Thorpe and Hampton, they could be pretty good starters. I'm ignoring Richard Fitz. I got to shout out my guy. That's my dog. He's pitched really well in Double-A. He's kind of one of those bulldog kind of pitchers. Goes, 3 or 4, can go 3 times through an order, can give you 100 pitches, can go 6 innings, 7 innings. Pitchability is really important. I think that's something the Yankees lack. How many times do you go like, man, this guy's only going 4 innings? It's not enough, right? Like you need them to be able to stretch into the 5th and 6th to save that bullpen. And then Vasquez and Brito. Vasquez, I think, is a little bit behind Brito in terms of how much the Yankees trust him at the major league level right now, but he certainly has the stuff to do it. And then Johnny Brito, what a year for Johnny Brito, right? Like he comes up, has that great first start, gets the shit beaten out of him by the Minnesota Twins. We're like, man, this guy's not ready. And then he comes out of the bullpen and he has a sub-2 ERA. We had the ESM brand and myself were insulted by certain people who I will remain nameless. I'm not giving them the clout on this platform. They don't deserve it. We're insulting our brand and what we do and saying, how could you be excited by Johnny Brito's breaking ball? And to that I say, look at what he's done over the last 2 months. He's been excellent, Alex. And overall, you have to be really excited about the pitching staff. You have to be excited. I think the future of this team is exciting. The question is, will the investment be there, number 1? And number 2, will Brian Cashman make the moves necessary to get them to the promised land? Next year isn't a transition year. Garrett Cole's 34 next summer. I don't want to hear transition year. You can't waste another year of that guy's prime. You don't know when Aaron Judge is going to start declining. That could happen. We saw it with Stan. It can happen like this. I need this team to win baseball games next year. They have the farm to do it. Now I need to see the money and the right moves to back that up.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of good pitching prospects in this Yankee farm system, and I believe that people are undervaluing just how much value they will end up having. I just was reading on Twitter that, Michael King here going into a starting role, if he can become really, high valuable starter, that is incredible. That gives you so much relief because, having an arm of that caliber in your rotation is objectively more beneficial than being in the bullpen. If he can take you 6 innings and give up 1-2 earned runs, you're in good shape. Your bullpen is a lot easier of a day. So when you're looking at Clayton Beeter, maybe he can come in and help your bullpen, take those steps forward, just ease into the role. Brito, obviously, as you said, has taken some big steps forward. And, Drew Thorpe could be elite. Like, he has ace potential. We'll see how he does in AAA eventually when he gets the call up, but we're very excited about his growth, and Richard Fitz as well. So there's a lot of young arms. And if the Yankees don't make any trades this offseason, there's going to be some really nice prospects coming up the ladder here that can make an impact with the Yankees for quite some time. But I do think there will be some trades, even if they're minor, and maybe they will flip some of those prospects because there's just too many mouths to feed. So we'll see what happens, guys. But, always happy to hear perspectives below on the prospects. Who do you think is going to start, who you think is going to sit or get traded, or who do you think is valuable in general? Always happy to hear those. So make sure to like and subscribe as always. I'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.